Hello. So for my debate, I chose the argument of whether or not the United States was in the right in dropping the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in World War II. And for my position, I will be saying that the United States was in the right, and there was really no other logical choice in dropping the atomic bombs to secure an Allied World War II victory. And it was justified in many reasons, most of which I'm going to go over in this 4 minute debate. Um, Mainly, you have to remember the Japanese, they struck first on U.S. soil in Hawaii. Pearl Harbor killed thousands of U.S. servicemen, destroyed many of our ships, our naval fleet, and it was a deliberate act of war against the United States, which was followed by 3 years of bloody conflict and fighting, ruthless fighting in the Pacific from um, Guadalcanal to the Solomon Islands. Before it was the Battle of Midway, all the way up until Okinawa and eventually Iwo Jima. But anyways, the Japanese they had it coming. You have to take into account when Japan went in and invaded the Philippines and pushed General MacArthur and the rest of the Allies out of the Philippines. Um, After that, what happened was the Bataan Death March, where hundreds of thousands of American soldiers and Philippine soldiers they were tortured and ruthlessly treated. They were treated very badly. Um, Many war crimes were committed by the Japanese, and following that, there were still other instances of Japanese war crimes, like the rape of Nanking, where the Japanese just slaughtered hundreds of thousands, actually, I believe millions of Chinese citizens when they invaded and occupied China. And it was just the Japanese. They were the Imperial Japan was not morally right, and still it was a tough decision to finally drop the atomic bombs and end the war. But as ruthless as it sounds, as Japan, they had it coming. And don't get me wrong, all the civilians, they were completely innocent, but it was the largest war in the history of mankind. I believe World War II spanned a total of 7 years, 1938 to 1945. With all that death, by that time, people were just, they were ready for it to end. Um, and also, you have to remember that the United States wanted to originally, without the atomic bombs and the Manhattan Project, if there were no nuclear bombs and they had to just continue launching amphibious invasion into Japan, it was called Operation Downfall. That was the plan for the United States and other allies to launch the largest amphibious assault, even larger than D-Day. It would have to have been huge for them to launch an invasion, a maritime invasion into Japan, and eventually occupy it. And you have to remember, Imperial Japan's their mentality was basically no surrender, death before dishonor. So I believe they would have fought to the last man, and they were warned. The United States, they gave them, they warned them about the atomic bombs before they dropped them and said, hey, we have these atomic weapons that we're going to drop, and you can surrender now, and we won't drop them. But Japan, they refused. They chose to fight until the death, and that's what they got, unfortunately. But um, the Allies, they would have to put, especially the United States, they would have had to lose probably hundreds of thousands of more soldiers, airmen, and Marines to occupy and invade Japan fully and conquer it. So the atomic bomb, although it cost thousands of innocent Japanese lives, it saved American lives in the end and Allied lives. And at that point, the war had been going on for 7 years. It had to end. So that's why I believe the United States was completely in the right in dropping the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and ending World War II, defeating the Japanese once and for all.